Welcome back to GEMS Podcast. I'm your host, Genesis Amaris Kemp, and with me today is Laura Templeton. And here's a bit about Laura. Laura is the founder and chief instigator at 30-Second Success, a company helping business owners and professionals make a better connections and obtain more business in 30 seconds or less. Her company focuses on crafting 30-second brand messages for networking and video that connect on a deep decision-making level. As the international speaker, author of 30-Second Success, Ditch the Pitch and Start Connecting. A communications consultant, Laura educates in-person and virtual audiences on brand messaging and how to view networking as a marketing strategy and a way to build better connections that lead to more opportunities and businesses. An enthusiast for the written word, Laura is currently working on several books planned for the coming year. In her spare time, she likes exploring her new home state of Florida, the Sunshine State, spending time with her family and Knox, her co-working dog, and teaching archery to anyone interested in learning. Ditch the pitch and start connecting with Laura Templeton. And today we're going to dive into that 30-second success model. Without further ado, welcome Laura Templeton to GEMS Podcast.
Jessica, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show.
My pleasure. So let's unpack. What exactly is 30-second success? How did you come up with it? And was it through an aha moment?
That's a great question. Yes, aha moments really happen, especially in my life these days. But 30-second success was something that came about based on a need that I saw within my networking community. I had stepped into a leadership role with a women's networking organization, and a lot of the women were looking for help with their 30-second message, because in networking, you have to go kind of round robin around the room. Everybody does their 30-second message. And I watched these amazing women just literally fall to pieces when it was their turn to do their 30-second message. So I started looking for help. I started trying to find a speaker that would come in. I would find networking consultants, people that could talk about it, but weren't really specifically addressing the issue and the problems that were keeping people from feeling confident when they would share their message. I had a lot of training with my direct sales background, direct sales and network marketing. They do an amazing job of teaching you how to be a relationship marketer. And part of that is that 30-second message, right? Communicating well with your audience. So I started volunteering and helping the people in my network. And then pretty soon word got out that I was helping people in my network with their 30-second message. And I came home about a year after really exploring it and figuring out how it was going to work. And I said to my husband one day, I said, I think I know what I'm going to do next. And I explained it to him. He's like, are people really going to pay you for that? And I'm like, honey, they already are. There's a real need out there. People were just struggling too much. And once they had that 30-second message, their confidence went through the roof. So it was amazing to watch.
What do you think some of those limitations were that caused those people from just overcoming their fear and really stepping into their zone of genius to have that confidence?
Yeah, I think especially in women's networking, I found it with a few of the men that I've worked with as well, but a lot of time it's a belief system. A lot of people are really afraid to niche down to who it is that they absolutely love to work with. So when I work with clients, it's always starting with that ideal client and identifying them very, very specifically. A lot of people are afraid to niche, so they're not sure. They're trying to speak to a broad audience. They also don't understand that the value of your 30-second message and the intention of your 30-second message, it's not to tell people everything that you do. Right? We call that verbal vomit, like when you start to talk and don't want to stop because you're afraid you're going to leave something out. But when you really are intentional about creating a message that grabs people's interest and gets them to want to know more, now you can move them to a deeper conversation. That's the intention of your 30-second message, is not to educate people on everything you do, but giving them enough to understand what it is that you do and to pique your interest and also to understand who you serve.
Oh, nice. Kind of like the sneak peek and the high level that says, okay, this is who I am, high level. If you're interested in learning more, then you got to pay to play.
Yeah, pay to play is a good way to put it. It's really about connection. So I look at it in the way of relationship building, because when you start to make those connections, you start to build trust. And we all know, like, and trust will get you to a deeper connections and more sales and more clients. So when you start to build that trust with your audience, it makes a huge difference, because they then can either see themselves as your client, or they may know someone who would be a great client for you.
By that rapport building and the connections that you already made, which are those organic connections and feel. So whenever you think about your model, is there any specific training that you walk them through? And is your training 30 seconds long, or is it longer and you reverse engineer it to teach them how to concise it?
My training is definitely longer than 30 seconds. As a matter of fact, I have a couple different, I have a course that I just launched that's coming out. So I'm starting to work on the marketing for that. I have a book called 30 Second Success, Ditch the Pitch and Start Connecting. And when I do work one-on-one, I do absolutely work on the reverse engineering with clients. We first start with, who's your ideal client? Where are you finding them? How are you connecting with them? And then we build your message around those people and how you serve them, right? It's getting to the heart of your message, that with deep intention, because you have to move people emotionally. It's marketing 101, right? Marketing 101 is that if you don't connect on an emotional level, you're never going to get people to move to make a decision.
Very true, because sometimes that's when you see people have impulse buy because their emotion is driving them to buy that product or service, when in actuality, they may not necessarily need that product or service, but they want the product and service. And then after that impulse buy, they have the guilt and the remorse. And they're like, oh man, I shouldn't have bought that because I spent X amount of dollars. And depending if they're married or not, your husband may be like, why'd you even buy that? You knew you didn't need that new purse or those new shoes, but it felt so good.
Right.
So let's do a role play of what one of your trainings would look like, Laura. Can you do a demo?
I could do a demo quickly. Let me just go through it. Maybe I'm just trying, caught me off guard a little bit there. So a quick demo, maybe even and one of the things that I actually am sharing with your audience is a free webinar. It's called your mic drop moment. And it's identifying that one line sentence for when you're in a situation and somebody says to you, so what do you do? Right? It's crafting that message that gets people to go, oh, I need to know more. So that's a big piece of it. So, all right. So here's what I do a lot of times is tell me a little bit about you and the work that you do.
Okay, so role playing, y'all. I am Genesis Amaris Kemp. I'm a visionary life coach, motivational speaker, author, and podcast founder and host of GEMS podcast. And I connect the dots by education, inspiration, and motivation while factoring in DEI and B, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your ideal client.
My ideal client is a male or female who knows their purpose in life. They walk with confidence, but they're wanting to level up in all areas of their life to overcome imposter syndrome.
So it's imposter syndrome that they struggle with. And what's behind that imposter syndrome?
Fear. And how they were conditioned when they were growing up. Because a lot of people, if you never get over how you were raised and some of the stigmas that have attached themselves to you, then you're not going to be able to see the path in front of you clearly.
So I'm not writing a lot of this down, so you'll have to bear with me. All right, so a lot of it is the preconditioning that we've experienced from how we were raised.
Correct. And some of that can also be emotional trauma from adulthood that has carried with you.
Okay. So, all right. So tell me a little bit about how you then help them. What is it that you do? How do you bring them along and help them overcome that?
So I help them by starting with the end first and reverse engineering. So for example, where do you want to end up and who are you? Because if you don't know who you are, you're easily going to fall victim to what society tells you you are, what your family and friends tell you, and what external factors show up in your life. And you have to be the one to put in the coordinates in your GPS. If not, you're never going to reach your end goal.
Oh, I like the word GPS in there. That's pretty clever. So helping them reach their end goal, right? By breaking down those barriers that are holding them back from all those preconditioned issues that they're dealing with that create that imposter syndrome. So one of the things, so when someone knows that they want to work with you, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to schedule a call with you, visit your website, sign up for a course? What is it that you are currently asking them to do in your call to action?
So I asked them to fill out a form so I have their information so I could contact them. And then the second thing is after they fill out the form, book their consultation call because I want to know, are they going to put in the work? Because when I work with you, it's a partnership. You put in what you want to receive and then we do it together.
Awesome. You did the same thing to me when I applied for your for your podcast. That's awesome. So yes, all right, let's break this down. So, just very quickly. So you've seen what I do is a lot of times I ask what you do, who you are, a little bit about your clients and what it is that you do for them, and then your call to action. So those are fundamentally the formula that I teach in when I do courses, workshops, my book, everything, even one-on-one with clients, I'm teaching that specific 30-second success formula. It's a formula that I learned years ago and then just kind of tailored it and made it my own. And it works. It really works. So let's talk about this. I always start with, that call to that one really heart-wrenching comment or question. So we start with either a comment or question. So let's start it this way. Do you know someone who is amazing at what they do, and yet they feel like they're a fake, like they're an imposter because of all of the trash that's been programmed into their brain over the years and years? Well, I come alongside them, and through a reverse engineering, we clear out those old beliefs and replace them with new beliefs that are going to become their GPS to get them where they want to go. If you know someone who's struggling with this, you connect us today, because we don't need to use the because. If you know someone who is struggling with this and who is tired of holding themselves back because of the self-doubt that they have, connect us today. I'm Gemma, and I'm Genesis, and I'm looking forward to helping you. So
amazing.
Yeah. And so the end would always be your name, your full name, and your company. And the reason why I tell people to use your full name and your company and save it for last, especially in a networking environment, is that you want to start out with a really strong statement or a question that gets people to sit up and notice, because we know that people aren't normally paying attention. So you've got to grab their attention right away. And you do that by giving them that strong, impactful statement from the beginning. Now that was just me playing around, and if you asked me to repeat what I just said, I would not be able to. My girlfriend tells me I have to walk around with a microphone because I always say stuff, and she'll go, "What did you got to repeat that so I can write it down." I'm like, I don't know what I just said. It just comes out. But yeah, that's the format that I usually follow when I'm working with clients. But we go a lot deeper into their business as well and how they're connecting and things like that. So.
And thank you for that demo, because I really wanted to show it to the listeners as well as the viewers so they could know what is it like to have that 30-second success, and what do you get when you work with Laura Templeton if you are interested in connecting with her, because a lot of people are struggling to really level up with their confidence and just go into a room, say their pitch, and really make sure after they're done pitching that they have a connection afterwards where that person is going to be a sponsor. They're either going to buy their product and services, or they're going to connect with them and introduce them to other people who could really build those collaborations and create the synergies.
Thank you. Thank you. That was beautifully said. Yes. And that's one of the fun things that I love to do when I'm speaking is to actually ask for a volunteer from the audience. And we do a hot seat, but I always ask them if they brought a friend. And if not, I ask somebody from the audience to record it. So, on their phone, on the person in the hot seat's phone, where we actually are starting to call it a love seat instead of a hot seat now. But it's always amazing to me to see those aha moments when someone has a 30-second message that really speaks not only to their heart, but also to the heart of the people that they're intended to work with. And you see the clarity. There's those instances, I can't tell you how many times I've heard from clients, you found the words that I've been struggling to find for years. And it's just a matter of listening, right? But you have to uncover. You're talking the same thing with your clients. You have to uncover what's really beneath to find all the emotions and what really drives them.
Absolutely. I call it the peeling the onion layers back, because you have to get to the root. If you never get to the root, you're never going to appreciate the gem. Just like, for example, for anyone who is mining, they don't always get the gems at the top. You have to go deep below the surface to really connect in order to produce those diamonds. And diamonds are made from things that are pressurized. So think about it that way. If you never go through the test, you're not going to have a testimony. If you never go through the mess, you're not going to have a message. So all of this is so important whenever you think of your 30 seconds. And I like how you say, ditch the pitch and start connecting. Let's talk about connections here, because I feel like sometimes people connect with other people for what that individual can do for them. And then it becomes a one-time connection versus a lifetime connection.
That's a really strong statement, and you're absolutely right. A lot of people don't understand what it means to build relationships in this day and age. It's about giving. When we come from a heart of service, it changes everything. When I work with clients, it's like, how do you serve? How do you serve? How do you serve is always my question. We're called to have a heart of service. It's how, we were intended to be as human beings. It's biblical, because we are here to serve one another. And the best way to do that is by giving. So when I make connections with people, I'm not looking for what I can get out of it. I'm looking for what I can give into it. Me being here with you today, I'm giving to your audience. I'm giving freely what is intended for me to share. This is not something that I came up with for myself. It's something that I'm willing to share, faithfully and trust in the process. That, somebody shared with me one time, there's the expression, you give to get to give. It's everything comes back to you when you give, right? So if you're giving, you're receiving, but then you got to give it back again. You don't just hold on to it.
Absolutely. And whenever you hold on to things so tight, you're not going to be able to receive, because your hand is already closed because you're holding it so tight. So I tell people, what is your seed time and harvest time, and what does that look like? If you never plant those seeds, do you think that the farmer is going to be able to reap an effective and abundant crop? No, because he or she did not do the work to effectively plant those seeds. So in our life, we have to plant those seeds, whether it's the relationship building and you're doing it organically. And then you also nurture that relationship, because over time, you are evolving as an individual, just like the next person. And you have to continue to remain in communication with those individuals, especially if you see that you want to have that longevity. Also, whenever you are reaping and you're going through that reaping process, how can you turn around and sow into somebody else to make their life easier and make their business grow? Because then you start to see the cycle of life. As you give, you receive. And as you receive, you're able to give, similar to what you were saying, Laura.
And that's a big piece of it, is, really being intentional about connection. Now, I network for a living, so I have a ton of connections. So I had to be very intentional about reaching out to people, sharing information. Social media has given me the opportunity to even just spend a little bit of time helping the people around me, helping the people in my community, being able to just comment on their posts and share them when possible. So that's a great way to stay connected. Even if you're just staying, staying relevant or visible, just saying, hey, I'm here, I'm thinking of you, I'm trying to share what you're putting out there. I think it's great stuff. When somebody comes to mind, thinking about them. And oftentimes I will make introductions just out of the blue because I met someone and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to, so-and-so would love to meet you, right? So I'm always trying to put those people together. When you start to think of common connections or what someone would look for in an ideal client, when you start to get to understand what the ideal client of the people that you're connected to, you start to look for them. Right, because the benefit of that is helping. When you help others, they start to think of you in the same way.
Absolutely, because they're going to remember what you did. It's like they say, people remember how you made them feel. And I liked how you said on social media, you don't have to always spend money to support a business. That's why there's digital currency. If you see somebody that's doing something incredible, give them a shout out, whether you are sharing their posts on your feed, whether you're doing an Instagram live with them, a Facebook live, or whatever. Digital currency is also king. You don't always have to take somebody to the bank in order to collaborate. So just be mindful of that. And Laura, as we begin to wind down, I want you to give the listeners and the viewers some tips to help them think about ways that they could be successful in 30 seconds, or maybe some old paradigms that they need to scrub away for the new paradigms to show up.
So some of the tips that I'd love to share with people is just to think of your network as part of your family, right? It's bigger than just the just showing up. And I think that's really key. Just remember that your network is there to support you and love you just as much as it is part of your family, right? So they want to take care of you and they want to look after you. So being part of that and being willing to give back is so important. The tips that I have to offer for your 30 seconds is really just remembering that your 30-second message is intended to grab someone's attention. Get their attention, get them to want to have a deeper conversation with you. Because when they approach you and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Oh, I would love to, but here's what I'm going to say. We're in a busy setting right now, and it might be hard to have a conversation. And I'd like to learn more about your business as well. So why don't we do this? Why don't we schedule a coffee date? It's a great way to take the conversation offline. Then you'll have their full attention, right? And that's where the building of trust and relationship begins. It's not in a networking event. It's not in a virtual room networking either. So, and that's something else. Remember, in-person networking versus virtual networking is very different, but very similar at the same time. We're still building relationships. You just have to figure out how to take it offline. And you can easily do that with the chat files on Zoom and invite people to have coffee dates with you. Hey, I loved what you shared about this. Can we have a deeper conversation about it? Hey, I had some ideas about how I can help you. Let's have a conversation. Right. So, and always make sure that your calendar is handy so you can schedule time with them.
Yes, and for anyone who does not have a calendar, there's a cool free app called Calendly that works amazing. There's also bookit.com, I believe, and then there's another one, but I can't remember the name of it. But all of those calendars are very useful. And then depending if you're using an iOS device or an Android, you could also build your calendar in as a predictive text. So if you're in a meeting or you're trying to get information out, just go to that message and start typing it. And then as a predictive text, it would automatically show up. So you have to work smarter, not necessarily harder.
Right. Right. And I love Calendly. I use it all the time.
It is phenomenal. It definitely saves you a lot of time, and you could build in your other calendars into Calendly, which is one thing that I like. And there's a free version and also a paid version, depending if you want to use that calendar for different parts of your business. One other thing too that Laura, that I want you to share with the listeners and the viewers is how can they connect with you? What's your website and where do you hang out on social media?
So primarily on social media, I hang out on LinkedIn. So the easiest way to find me is with my company name, 30 Second Success. And that's also my website. So it's 30secondsuccess.com, and it's 30 and then spell out the word second and success.com. That's the easiest way to connect with me. And I love meeting new people. So if you're interested in learning where I network or having a conversation, reach out to me. I believe I put my calendar, my Calendly link will be in the show notes. If not, I'll make sure I send it to you.
Yes, I could definitely make sure all of your information is in the show notes. So there's no excuse for y'all not to connect with Laura Templeton. Once again, I am your host, Genesis Amaris Kemp, and we gave you some powerful tools and a wild card demo on what the 30 seconds looks like. So you kind of heard about it and you've witnessed it live here on Gems Podcast. And until we chat next time, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing day. And remember, you are an asset, not a liability. So embrace your inner confidence so your outward confidence can shine and you can glow to be the woman or man you were created to be. Ciao.
Thank you.